Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I never thought a single photograph could change everything I believed about my marriage. But there it was, staring back at me from my phone screen. A picture I had never seen before. My sister, smiling, leaning into a man I knew all too well. My husband. My stomach twisted as I zoomed in, trying to convince myself that I was mistaken. That maybe this was just some weird coincidence. But the way he looked at her, the way she looked at him, it wasn't the kind of picture you take with an old friend. It was something more. Something I should have known about. I turned to him, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you have a picture with my sister?" His reaction told me everything. The way his face paled, the way he hesitated before answering. "That was a long time ago," he finally said, forcing a small laugh like it wasn't a big deal. But it was a big deal. Because in all the time we'd been together, he had never mentioned her. Not once. And my sister, my own flesh and blood, had never said a word either. My heart pounded. "How long ago?" I pressed. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Before I met you," he admitted. "I dated her. But it wasn't serious." Something about the way he said it didn't sit right with me. If it wasn't serious, why did neither of them ever bring it up? My mind raced through the last few years, suddenly remembering all the little things that never made sense. The way my sister had been distant at our wedding. The way she avoided talking about him whenever I brought him up. Had she been hiding something all this time? Had he? I needed answers. But I didn't know if I was ready to hear them. What would you do if you found out your husband had a history with someone close to you? Would you demand the truth or pretend you never saw the photo? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is just getting started. I couldn't let it go. No matter how many times I told myself it was in the past, that it shouldn't matter, the thought kept creeping back into my mind. If it wasn't serious, why had neither of them ever mentioned it? Why did my sister avoid talking about him? Why did my husband look so uncomfortable now? I watched him carefully, searching for anything that would make this make sense. "You dated her," I said slowly, the words tasting foreign in my mouth. "And you never thought to tell me." He exhaled, shaking his head. It wasn't relevant. I let out a sharp laugh, though nothing about this was funny. "Not relevant? You dated my sister, and you don't think that's relevant?" His jaw tightened. I didn't want it to change things between us. I felt my stomach twist. "So you decided for me that I didn't need to know?" He ran a hand through his hair. "It wasn't a secret. It just never came up." But that wasn't true, was it? Because my sister had never mentioned it either. If it was just the past, why hide it? Something wasn't adding up, and the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. I grabbed my phone before I could talk myself out of it and scrolled to my sister's number. My hands felt cold as I hit call. It rang twice before she picked up. "Hey," she said, her voice hesitant. I swallowed hard. "Did you date my husband?" Silence. A long, unbearable silence. Then, finally, she sighed. "So, he told you." My stomach dropped. That was all I needed to hear. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I asked, gripping the phone tighter. "I didn't think it mattered," she said, her voice quieter now. "It was a long time ago." I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm. "Then why do I feel like there's something you're not telling me?" She hesitated again, and my pulse quickened. "It's complicated," she finally said. I let out a shaky breath. "Then uncomplicate it." She exhaled sharply. "Look. I didn't tell you because I didn't want this to happen. I knew it would change things between us." That's not an answer. There was another pause, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because it didn't end the way you think it did." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, and for the first time, I heard something in her voice that scared me. "Regret. What do you think my sister is hiding? Should I confront her, or should I push my husband for the truth? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is far from over." I gripped the phone tighter, my pulse pounding in my ears. What do you mean it didn't end the way I think it did? My sister exhaled sharply. It's not something I can explain over the phone, she said. We need to meet. My stomach twisted. The way she said it, like whatever she had to tell me was too big, too heavy to say out loud unless we were face to face, made my hands tremble. I glanced toward the living room, where my husband was sitting, pretending to scroll through his phone, but I could feel it. The tension. The weight of unspoken words hanging between us. I lowered my voice. Fine. Where? She hesitated. Not at my place. Not yours either. She paused, then added, somewhere neutral. That word sent a chill down my spine. Neutral. Like we were about to discuss something dangerous. Okay, I said, barely above a whisper. Text me the place. I ended the call and turned to see my husband watching me. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, they weren't calm. You talked to her, he said flatly. I swallowed hard. Yeah. His grip tightened around his phone. And? She wants to meet. His jaw clenched. Why? I folded my arms, my heartbeat hammering in my chest. That's what I'm going to find out. He stood up slowly. I don't think you should go. A shiver ran down my spine. Why not? Because she's stirring up things that don't need to be stirred, he said. His voice was calm, too calm, but there was something underneath it. Something guarded. We're married. This is our life. The past doesn't matter. I narrowed my eyes. It does when you both keep hiding it from me. He took a slow step toward me. I didn't hide anything. I let out a cold laugh. You didn't tell me. That's the same thing. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something in his expression. Not anger. Not frustration. Fear. And that scared me more than anything else. What do you think? Should I go meet my sister and hear her side of the story, or stay and demand the truth from my husband? Comment below with what you would do, and don't forget to subscribe because this is only getting more complicated. I could feel my husband's eyes on me as I grabbed my keys. My sister had sent me the location, some quiet little cafe on the other side of town. Neutral ground. The word still lingered in my mind, making my stomach twist. He took a step closer. You don't have to do this. I met his gaze. Yes, I do. His jaw tightened. What if she's lying? What if she just wants to cause problems between us? I swallowed hard. Then I'll know. His expression flickered with something unreadable, but he didn't try to stop me. He just nodded, almost like he had expected this all along. That unsettled me more than anything. The drive felt longer than it should have. My fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly, my thoughts racing. What was my sister going to tell me? What was so bad that she had kept it from me for years? When I pulled into the parking lot, she was already there, sitting at an outdoor table, stirring a cup of coffee with slow, distracted movements. I took a deep breath and walked over. She looked up, and the expression on her face sent a shiver down my spine. Guilt. I sat down across from her. Okay, I said, my voice steady even though I didn't feel steady at all. Tell me. She hesitated, staring down at her coffee like she was trying to find the right words. Then, finally, she spoke. It wasn't just a relationship, she said quietly. I loved him. And for a while, I thought he loved me too. My heart pounded. Then what happened? She exhaled, looking up at me. I wasn't the one who ended it. He did. And it wasn't because we grew apart. It was because of her. A cold chill ran down my spine. Who? Her fingers curled around the cup. Someone from his past. Someone I didn't know about until it was too late. I felt my breath catch. What are you saying? She hesitated, her eyes searching mine. He has a pattern, she whispered. And you're following the same path I did. My stomach twisted. What does that mean? She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and placed it on the table. I need you to see this. My hands trembled as I picked it up. My heart pounded as I hit play. And then, I saw something that made my blood run cold. What do you think she showed me? Would you trust my sister, or believe my husband? Comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe because the biggest twist is yet to come. The video started playing, and my pulse quickened as I watched the screen. At first, it was shaky, as if someone had recorded it in secret. A dimly lit restaurant. Low voices. And then I saw him. My husband. Sitting across from a woman I didn't recognize. My breath caught in my throat. He was leaning in, his expression serious. The woman had her back to the camera, but there was something about her, something familiar. My sister stayed silent as I watched, letting the footage speak for itself. Then, my husband's voice cut through the low hum of background noise. "You shouldn't have come back," he said, his tone colder than I had ever heard. "It's too late for that." The woman shifted in her seat. "I had no choice," she said. "You know that." He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "You need to leave. Before she finds out." I felt the air leave my lungs. Before she finds out. He was talking about me. My sister reached over and paused the video. "This was taken 2 weeks ago," she said quietly. I looked up at her, my hands shaking. "Who is she?" She hesitated. "Her name is Lauren. She's the reason he left me." I blinked, my mind struggling to process. "I don't understand." "He told me it was just over between you two." My sister gave a bitter laugh. "That's what I thought too. Until I found out he was seeing someone else behind my back." I felt sick. "You mean, he cheated?" She shook her head. "No. We were over. But only because he ended it the second she came back into his life." I pressed my fingers to my temples. "So, what happened? Why did she leave? And why is she back now?" My sister's expression darkened. "That's what I've been trying to figure out. She disappeared years ago, and no one knew where she went. But now, suddenly, she's back, and she's trying to talk to him. And he doesn't want me, or you, to know about it." I swallowed hard. "Why?" My sister leaned in, lowering her voice. "Because I think she knows something about him. Something he's afraid of." A chill ran down my spine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and my breath caught when I saw the message. "Unknown number, we need to talk. It's about your husband." I looked at my sister, my hands trembling. "I think she's trying to find me too." She nodded, her face unreadable. "Then you have to decide, do you meet her and find out the truth? Or do you go home and pretend this never happened? What would you do? Would you meet the woman from his past, or confront him directly? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe because the biggest revelation is still to come." I stared at the message, my fingers frozen over the screen. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. I looked up at my sister, my throat dry. "She wants to meet." Her eyes darkened. "Are you going?" I didn't answer. I already knew I had no choice. An hour later, I pulled up to a quiet parking lot behind an old bookstore. The streetlights flickered, casting long shadows against the pavement. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, nerves crawling up my spine. Then, I saw her. Lauren. She stood near the edge of the lot, her arms crossed, scanning the area like she expected someone to be watching. When she spotted me, she exhaled in relief. "You actually came," she said softly. I nodded. "I need to know the truth." She glanced around again before stepping closer. "He told you we were over, didn't he?" I swallowed hard. "He said you left." She gave a bitter laugh. "That's one way to put it." Then, she reached into her purse, pulling out a folded piece of paper. "Read this." My hands shook as I unfolded it. My eyes scanned the words quickly, and my breath caught. A marriage license. Dated 5 years ago. His name. Her name. I felt like the ground beneath me had vanished. My voice cracked. "You were married?" Lauren nodded slowly. "We were supposed to start a life together. But then, one day, he just changed. He became controlling, secretive. He started hiding things from me. And when I confronted him, he told me I could either accept it or leave." I felt sick. "So you left?" She shook her head. "I tried. But before I could, something happened. Something that made me realize I had to disappear for good." I looked at her, my entire body trembling. "What?" She hesitated, then leaned in. I found out that I wasn't the only one. A shiver ran through me. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. I wasn't the first. And I won't be the last. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. A message from my husband. Come home. Now. I looked at Lauren, my mind spinning. Was I about to become just another name on his list? What would you do? Confront him or run before it's too late? Comment below and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe because this story isn't over yet. I stared at my phone, my husband's message glaring back at me. Come home. Now. It didn't feel like a request. It felt like a warning. Lauren watched me carefully, her expression knowing. He knows you're with me, she said quietly. A shiver ran down my spine. How? She exhaled. Because that's what he does. He watches. He controls. He manipulates. I didn't realize it until it was too late. I gripped the marriage license in my hands, my fingers tightening around the paper. I had spent years believing I knew the man I married, that I was safe, that our love was real. But now, every moment, every memory felt tainted. If he had kept a secret this big, what else was he hiding? Lauren leaned in. You have to leave. I swallowed hard. And then what? Her gaze was steady. Then you never look back. The thought of walking away from everything, our home, our life, the man I thought I loved, felt impossible. But so did the idea of staying, knowing what I now knew. I stood up, my hands shaking. He's expecting me to come home. Lauren placed a hand on my arm. Then don't give him what he wants. I met her eyes, something shifting inside me. Fear had kept me quiet for too long. But now, I wasn't afraid. I was angry. I took a deep breath and walked to my car. But instead of driving home, I drove past it. Past the life I was leaving behind. Past the lies. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but for the first time in a long time, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't coming back. What would you have done in my place? Would you have left, or confronted him one last time? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe because sometimes, the real story begins after the ending.